Hey, what's up? I'm Brian Fennell, also known as Bry Guy, and I have a show called Wine Unknown. So if you have any questions that you would like to get answered about wine, just click the link. It's going to send you to my inbox, and you just leave your message there.
That looks good. What's that?
It's Wine Unknown. Welcome to Wine Unknown. I'm your host. My name is Brian Fennell, also known as Bright Guy, and I'm a wine specialist. What does that even mean? Well, it means that I know a lot of information about wine, and I want to share that along with my passion with you guys. So no matter where you're at in your journey, no matter if it's the beginning, the middle, well, let's face it, there's no such thing as the end. This is the show for you. So we've already covered how wine was made and how does it get into a bottle. Let's talk about some of the information that's displayed on the labels because it can be overwhelming. Like when you're looking at it, I just see a bunch of letters, or I should say I used to see a bunch of letters. Now those letters form something so impactful. I remember going into a wine shop for the first time, being so overwhelmed by all of the bottles. It was like a sea of them, and all of them were saying things. They were different colors, different shapes. They were just all over the place. Like when I say sensory overload, I mean like I just gave up. I just gave up. I was like, I don't even care. I don't even know. I don't even know if there's anybody in here that can help me, but there was a gentleman in there that could help me. His name is Max. Everybody in Pennsylvania has to know Max by now. But yeah, like, but the thing was, I knew what I was looking for. I was looking for a South African wine that I wanted to pair with goat. That's it. That's it. Now I don't like in Pennsylvania, South African wines it's really a small like section. So and the wines weren't going to be good, like no matter which one. I understand that today, but back then I didn't know. I was like a deer caught in the headlights. I didn't know where to start to look. I didn't know how the store was structured. I didn't have the confidence. And I definitely didn't have the confidence to ask someone for help. But now I know there's at least 8 to 9 things that's going to be on every wine bottle's labeling. Right? Okay, so I'm going to tell you what they are. There's always going to be the name or the brand / producer of the wine. It's always going to have the location of where the wine is from. It's usually going to have the year that the wine was made somewhere on the bottle. It could be on the front label or the back label. It could be in small font somewhere. It's going to be on there. It has to. For the US market, now what everybody is doing is putting the grape varietal on the label. But that's not always true for a lot of wines. What else? Oh, alcohol percentage. They have to put that on it. Every bottle is going to have alcohol percentage. You have to look for it sometimes. If it's like a sweet wine or something like that, they're going to have that percentage small somewhere, or they just have it large somewhere, but it's going to be on that back label somewhere, kind of like tucked in. You kind of got to look. Another thing is the amount of milliliters the bottle contains. It's always going to be on there because some wines just come in different sizes. Some of them are magnum, some of them are 1 liters. The standard is 750 milliliters. Now, something else to look out for would be the distributor and or importer. Now, the importer, they're the ones who bring wines in from different countries. So you kind of build a relationship based off of that. If they keep on bringing in good stuff that you like, then 9 times out of 10, anything they bring in, you're going to like. Distributors, that works. That's a heavy conversation, and that works totally different. And I'm just trying to intro this to you, but distributors distribute the wines. So in Pennsylvania, we'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit later. Because it's so much to just cover with that. I just don't want to do that. All right. The last thing that's going to be on the wine is that it's going to say contains sulfites. Now, that's a whole conversation piece, but every bottle of wine contains sulfites. You can't, it's impossible to get around that, but that's always going to be on a label as well. Those are the main things that's always going to be printed on a wine label. There are other things, so with appellation, that just means that this wine comes from this place. We're known for this. This is what we do. So we don't have to put the grape variety on there. You guys should just know this is what we do. And that's when we get a little bit more advanced in our wine knowledge on this wine journey. Because something like Sancerre, which a lot of people love, is Sauvignon Blanc, just from this area. For example, Philadelphia, known for its cheesesteaks. But there's also other information like a grading scale. In Germany, they grade based off of the weight of dried out grapes. You might see something on the bottle that says Surly, or it looks like Surly, but that just means that they aged the wine on the dead yeast cells. And what that does is it just adds more texture to the wine, a lot more flavor, a lot more characteristics to it. But you'll see that on a lot of labels. So you may also see estate grown and bottled. Now that's really important. What that means is we've grown the grapes. They've grown here on our land, on our turf. We cultivated these grapevines and we turned it into wine ourselves and bottled it ourselves. That's estate grown. Now, there are other things on these labels that really trips people up. So then you have just bottled by, right? There are some wines that only have bottled by. And what that means is they had no say in the grape growing process. They had no say in the wine making process. They just took whatever juice was available and bottled it themselves. So you do have that one as well. Now that you're going to start looking at the bottles and reading these labels, it's going to get pretty interesting because you see these terms, right? These terms are going to say vented and bottled by, made and bottled by, and the names may differ. The name that's next to made or vented and bottled by, those are the people that made the wine. They've grown the grapes, they've made the wine, and the winery brand may have had a small influence in the process. That's important because they're just selling it at that point. Now, let me jump back to the name producer of the wines on the labels. So you can see the same name producer on all of the wines. You can see 5 different ones. Let's just take Josh for an example. You can see Josh everywhere, but then it'll have Josh, Chardonnay, Josh Pinot. It's all still under the same producer. But then there also could be just we're just throwing this out there, just a certain producer's name, and then you start seeing single vineyard. Now we're starting to get a little bit more specific, some more detail, some more information that becomes available. So it's still this producer's, but this one is different because it comes from a different plot of land. It's just a different expression of what they can do or what they have in their back pocket, essentially. And then that goes into location. Location. He just told you the location on the prior thing that I just said, right? Building off of the single vineyard Josh, right? So if they name their vineyard something, like, just think like, if he just felt like, or they just felt like sitting there saying, Josh, Cabernet Sauvignon, Lolita. Then you're just like, what? But then when you start breaking it down, the producer or the name is Josh. Then it's coming from a single vineyard that the vineyard's name would be Lolita. So it's just giving you a little bit more. So now you're able to pinpoint exactly where these grapes are coming from. Now I want to dive a little bit deeper into location. I kind of touched on it when I was speaking about appellations, but location is really important on the bottles of wine. For the sheer fact, you might grab a bottle of wine and it just says California. And then, like I said, with Josh, then you have the single vineyard Lolita. So the difference is when it says California, they can grab the grapes from anywhere in the state of California, essentially, as opposed to Josh, who has Lolita single vineyard, where it's just like, no, these grapes only come from this one vineyard. This is it. Where it's 5 acres or whatever. This is where all of these are coming from. That's the importance about location in America. Outside of that is when we get into the appellation talk, where it's like, these are the only things that's allowed per the government that we can grow and utilize with this name. So that bottle that has the year stated on it has a term, and it's called vintage. Now, the tricky part about this is that just because it has that year stated on it doesn't mean all the grapes are from that year. That's the weird part. So you're able to use, at least here in America, you're able to use around like 70% of the stated year's harvest on the label. So then the rest could just be from previous years in the blend to still make up, because they're still the same grape varietals. They're just different years. But that also is the same kind of logic when you see a grape varietal on the label. Like when it says like Riesling or Sauvignon Blanc or Moscato, yes. Those grapes are in those wines, but it does not have to be 100% those. So there could be up to, or at minimum, around 75% of those grape varietals, depending on where it's from. Like I was saying, those appellations, because now we can sit there and go into like 85% or 95%, or even it has to be 100%, depending on how strict the government is within wherever they are. And that's really important, because you can think that you're just drinking whatever type of wine, but that's not the case, because that single varietal, it can use help. Like if it doesn't have enough acidity within the red wine, why not just throw a little bit of Pinot in there? Pinot Noir. If you throw a little bit of that, which has a good amount of acidity, and the flavors are going to get overtaken by the predominant grape varietal, they won't know. How will they know? They're not going to know. They will know, but they won't know unless you read. You have to really do your research on the wines to know that they have this amount of whatever other kind of grapes in them. I mean, but something that also comes to mind would be alcohol percentage. Now, you're always looking at around 12 to 13% alcohol by volume in a standard dry wine. If you're looking for a sweet wine, then you're looking around like 9% or below for wine. And that's just that. These are just like not random numbers I'm throwing out, but these are the ideal wine percentages that you're looking for. There are cases when alcohol is added to bump up the alcohol by volume number on them, but those are totally different kind of sweet wines that I'm talking about. We'll get into that another episode. But for the most part, if you're looking for a really good sweet wine, you're looking for 9% alcohol by volume or lower. It's generally just going to be around 5%, but don't let the alcohol percentage fool you. Just have a good time and enjoy that wine. You know what I mean? Thank you for checking out this episode of Wine Unknown. Once again, I'm your host, Brian Fennell, also known as Bry Guy, and hopefully you have a better experience at going to wine shops than my first time where you feel overwhelmed. Hopefully, like after listening to this, you feel a lot more confident of knowing exactly what to look for when you're trying to purchase a wine. Thank you for checking out Wine Unknown. I'm your host, Brian Fennell, also known as Bry Guy, and hopefully you had a good time and you learned something. Hopefully you had a great glass of wine in front of you. I'm sure you do because you're listening to Wine Unknown. Make sure you subscribe, like, share this show with whoever, everybody. Why not? Let's just have fun and keep on growing on this journey of Wine Unknown, and hopefully we'll drink together. All right. Cheers.